It's the Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast with your hosts, the Wolf and Action Jackson, who are keeping rock alive by talking classic rock, hard rock, progressive rock, heavy metal, 80s music, early MTV, UK vs. US chart success, and much more. This is the home of classic album and live concert reviews and your place for interviews with artists and legends. You're rocking with the Wolf. There, rock and rollers. Welcome to episode number 270 of the Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast. Brought to you by me, your host, Mac B. the Wolf, and I will be joined, as always, by my partner in crime from the East Coast of the U.S., Mr. Gary Action Jackson. And we appreciate you tuning in here with us early in 2026. We're off to a good start here. We think it's going to be a great year. We got a lot of great responses from the Styx episode on Paradise Theater. And we hope that those of you who aren't familiar with The Church and Heyday, the album they made before Starfish took them to worldwide heights, that you enjoyed some of that, some of the background on that. But this week we go to a supergroup from the mid-'80s. They came with a lot of fanfare, and for obvious reasons, but never really delivered on their full potential. And that's The Firm, with Jimmy Page, of course, of Led Zeppelin fame, Paul Rodgers of Free and Bad Company fame, longtime drummer and guest of our show, Chris Slade, who you may know best from his days in the Thunderstruck era AC/DC, and young bass superstar Tony Franklin, aka the Fretless Monster, who's one of the most sought-after bassists today, whether it's for sessions, recording, or playing live. Tony is the man. Now, we did an episode last year on their first album, The Firm, which had the radio hit Radioactive. And that album went gold in the US. Not a huge success, but not a flop either. And they had a successful tour. Now, in between that, Jimmy had his thing at Live Aid with Robert Plant, with John Paul Jones, and it didn't go over so well. Robert happily retreated back to being a solo artist, and Jimmy decided, yeah, we'll go ahead and make the second Firm album. Now, with all that power and talent in the lineup, you think it'd be a no-brainer. They'll just make some Zeppelin-y sounding stuff. They'll make some Bad Company sounding stuff. And they didn't really do that. I mean, the good news is they let Tony Franklin put his fretless bass all over the record. So it sounds cool. It sounds different. But the bad news is the songwriting was not what it was in their previous bands. A lot of the lyrics were not that special. And when it came to being business, while they may have taken a bit of a step forward as a band, they're playing together more, but their ideas weren't great. And they ended up recycling some songs that had been recorded before, either as Paul's solo album or as stuff that Jimmy had been toying with in previous bands or in previous sessions that hadn't been completely fleshed out. And while there's some highlights on Mean Business, the album that came out February 3rd, 1986, it still disappoints. The song All the King's Horses actually went to number one on the rock charts in the US for a month. So you think, hey, that's a success, right? Had a big video, decent budget, got some play on MTV, but it never really won over a ton of fans. And because it didn't go gold, I think Atlantic Records and Jimmy and Paul like, okay, we tried it. We made a couple of decent albums. We had an amazing rhythm section with us. It didn't work out. Let's just go back to counting our money. But because it's Jimmy Page, folks, you know that we're going to review it. And because Chris Slade was a guest of our show, and he talked a little bit about his time in The Firm, we figured, yes, we'll review it. Not every album we review is an album we love, or an album that sold 10 million, or an album that shot up the charts. But it's an album we were familiar with, and it has some of our favorite people in the world on it. And it's just a kind of a classic story of what could have been. But before we get into that, we do have a little bit of business to take care of. As always, we like to mention we are proud members of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a family of over 100 different shows. You can learn more at pantheonpodcast.com or follow on socials at PantheonPods. And we love giving a shout out to our intergalactic sponsor, RareVinyl.com, who's based in the UK, folks, but they ship all over the world and they procure collections from all over the world as well. And you better bet they do have some Firm stuff. They've also got Bad Company. They've also got Free. They've also got Led Zeppelin. They've got Yardbirds. They've got collectibles into the thousands of dollars. And the beautiful part is, if you use the code UGLY, UGLY, you can save 10% off one entire order. Not just one thing in your basket, but one entire order. So you don't have to buy one item that's worth $1,000 to get $100 off. Buy 17 different things that add up to $1,000 And that's the way you get your $100 off. You want to get that rare Led Zeppelin one with the blue lettering? They've got one. It'll cost you a couple of grand, but you'll get $200 off by using the code UGLY. So use the code UGLY, save yourself 10% at rarevinyl.com. Your record collection will thank you. Now back to the firm. I'll admit when I first saw Radioactive as an 11-year-old on MTV, I thought it was cool. I thought that double neck guitar was cool. I had no idea who Led Zeppelin were or who Jimmy Page was because I hadn't lived through it. By the time I started watching MTV, they'd already broken up. And when Live Aid happened, I didn't really know who they were. I knew Phil Collins. I knew he was playing drums for them, and he had already been in London earlier that day, but I didn't really know who they were. I was just a couple of years away from getting really, really into Led Zeppelin. And I'll admit that in the heady days of Napster, I went and got all of the firm's songs so I could listen to them, try to understand what Jimmy and Paul were trying to do here in the 80s after having such huge success in the 70s. And it fell a little short, but there are glimpses of what they could do, and we're going to point those out to you here. So let's get into it. We're doing the firm's Mean Business as it turns 40 here on The Wolf. Well, let's get into the firm's Mean Business.
All right.
The second album and last by the supergroup formed by Paul Rodgers of Free and Bad Company, Jimmy Page of the Yardbirds, and what was his 70s band again?
Yeah, something about selling hundreds of millions, right?
Oh, that's right. Or something. Yeah. And then the young Tony Franklin, the fretless monster, was he 23 at this point or something like that? And the veteran of the Psychic Wars, Chris Slade, who's also a veteran of our podcast. Is it episode 91, maybe? Something like that, in that range. And he was great talking about his time with Jimmy and Paul and the firm. We reviewed the original album last year as it turned 40. And I don't know, would you call our review mixed for the firm's first album?
Yes, correct.
Because they had the big radio hit, Radioactive, which did go to number 1 on the rock charts. And the album itself went gold, went top 20 in the UK, US, and Canada. So I feel like it wasn't like this huge success. Oh, Jimmy Page and Paul Rodgers are back, and they've got this huge new band. They did have an amazingly talented band, I think. Maybe the best rhythm section of the 1980s. But 1985 was different than 1975, when they were in their real heyday in Bad Company and Led Zeppelin. So the musical landscape had changed. And while there were some highlights in there, it seemed like some of it was a little disjointed. And Jimmy in particular, to me, and I don't think I'm the only one, it seemed like he still wasn't 100%. He was still trying to kind of like get back in shape after he was such a mess at the end of Zeppelin. And then the Arms concert tour, which I think went over very well, but Jimmy didn't look good and he was kind of a mess. And then, of course, we did the 1985, we did the Live Aid show last year, the shows, I should say, when Jimmy was loaded at Live Aid and his tech put the guitar, the big double-neck Gibson, back in the box so it would go out of tune after he tuned it because it was so damn hot. So I was like, okay, we're going to get Led Zeppelin together for this thing. Okay, that didn't work. Let's not even mention that anymore. I'm going back to the firm for whatever it's worth. But yeah, I mean, gold in the US, gold in Canada. Kerrang put it in the top 20 albums of 85. I think people were just happy to have Jimmy back in any way, shape, or form. And they did tour, but they didn't play any Bad Company. They didn't play any Led Zeppelin. They just played stuff from the Firm album. They played stuff from Paul Rodgers' first solo album, Cut Loose, which came out in 1983. And then they played music from Jimmy's soundtrack. Was that Death Wish 2?
Yes.
Which nobody knew, and most of it was instrumental anyway. So it's like, that's kind of got to be weird, especially if you bought things like, they're going to play Zeppelin, they're going to play Bad Company. No, you didn't know that, and they didn't. So, and they played some pretty big places. It's not like they just played theaters, they played arenas.
Yeah, I can imagine there were very disappointed ticket holders because, I mean, how many, what was it, 10 songs? Maybe
not even.
Yeah.
9.
So you figured there's no way you can do a whole concert with this. So yeah, there has to be back catalog stuff. And like you said, there was, but nothing anybody really wanted to hear.
That's right. So they forged forward. Now, to hear Paul Rodgers tell now, they didn't say this at the time, of course, because if it was a huge success, they probably would have just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
But he kind of said, Jimmy came to him, do you want to come form a new band with me? And Paul's like, you know what? Honestly, I just got out of Bad Company, which was, it's this big marriage and it's hard to handle. And, I did a solo album and I'm just kind of trying to explore what that's about. And so Jimmy says, hey, we'll just do 2 albums and 2 tours and that's it. And magically, that's exactly how it worked out. I don't know if that's Monday morning quarterbacking. I don't know if that's hindsight's 2020. So, oh yeah, we just wanted to do 2. Well, if they both sold 5 million, you wouldn't have just done 2.
That's a very odd number to me. Oh, you started at the beginning and said, we're okay, no matter what happens, we're only doing 2 records, right? Right. Yeah. If both of them had been platinum, they'd still be around today, I think.
Yeah, I mean, 2 albums, 2 tours, and then that's it. You can just go your separate way, and then we'll let this young hotshot Tony Franklin get gobbled up by somebody else. Mm-hmm. We'll let the always ready to pound those drums Chris Slade. Well, just let somebody else just have him. That's no problem. No, that's ridiculous. They just didn't have the success. Now, Ahmet Ertegun of Atlantic Records probably thought, I've got Jimmy back. He's being productive. Now he's with Paul Rodgers, this amazing vocalist. I'm going to have something here. They put a little something into the videos. Maybe not radioactive, but satisfaction guaranteed. That's a big set. Mm-hmm. You've got to pay Les Paul. They had press there to cover it and all that. They poured some money into that, and they put a little money into the videos from Mean Business as well. So I feel like Atlantic was thinking, we could have something here.
Mm-hmm.
Will we? Let's find out.
Yeah. Even though, no, I take that all the King's horses. Mm-hmm. That looks like they put some money into that. They had they had the actors doing the whole thing. So yeah, maybe they thought this could really take off. And you'd figure on paper it has to, right? I mean, both of these dudes sold a lot of records. They're still in demand today. And it wasn't okay. So it wasn't even like you had dudes from a band, but they didn't really write the songs.
Right.
No, these guys were the principal songwriters of their band. So yeah, right. There's nothing that can stop this thing.
Yeah. And so they call it Mean Business because it is a mean business, this record business. Like, you were the darlings 10 years ago. You were the darlings 5 years ago, really.
Mm-hmm.
And now, yeah, you're just another group out there with a gold album, but for some reason you get to fly on private jets.
Right. But also these guys mean business too.
Yes. The firm.
When they come to town. Yes.
Mean business. We mean business. We take this seriously. Although, I mean, Jimmy had to sit down through a lot of the live show.
Yeah, okay, so if you watch what I found, they made 2 videos. They had All the King's Horses and they had Live in Peace.
That's right.
Yeah, he looks pretty good.
He does.
But then there's some live stuff where he doesn't look very good at all. He looks very sweaty. He looks very like, can this be over with, please? Because I'm very tired and sweaty to be up here.
It's one thing to be like, I'm going to sit down to play acoustic. I think we all get that. But he's got the Dan Electro and he's sitting down.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude, stand up and play.
And at this point in time, how old is he? He is born in 1944. So he's what, 42?
41, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, 41. So, I mean, relatively still young.
Right, but that was old by 1986's standards. I mean, at that point, Paul McCartney seemed a little washed up. I mean, we all liked him, but it's like, yeah, the Pipes of Peace were nice, but, give my regards to Broad Street, whatever. The Stones were starting to look old, and nobody really loved Undercover, and, 1986 would show Dirty Work, which is probably, I don't know, one of their least popular albums, certainly one of their least popular album covers. Clapton was still trying to get back on his feet. He didn't have the full-on rejuvenation that he would have later in the 80s and early in the 90s. And because of MTV, everything was all so young. I don't know, they're still trying to appeal to an older crowd. I feel like the younger crowd isn't really picking up on what these, I would call them legends, but some would call them dinosaurs, are laying down.
Yeah, they were definitely trying to play a young man's game, and the whole idea of classic rock hadn't really taken hold yet. I think you're right. At this point in time, they were caught in that weird middle of being too old for popular radio, but then not old enough, I guess, or I guess the wave hadn't come in yet where people would say, "Oh, wait a minute, we love this stuff." Younger people loving the stuff from the 70s.
Right. Yeah, but that's
So,
the thing. After 20 years, it seems really cool.
mhm.
But after 10 years, it's just old.
Right.
Right. I mean, like Woodstock was huge, 67 to 69. Oh my God, all this crazy music happened. Well, by 76, 77, that's as ancient as it could be. And, you're into punk and you're into, stuff that's kind of a little more precise, a little newer, maybe louder, that kind of stuff. But then by the end of the 80s, like, oh, weren't the end of the 60s great?
Yeah.
Let's have a revival of all this stuff, So every other decade it gets cool again. But the next decade, it is not. It is
Right.
what people are trying to break away from. I think that's kind of what we're falling into here, which is kind of interesting just because by the late 80s, all those hair metal bands, as they would call them, they're all Zeppelin derivative.
Correct. Yeah.
All of them. Now you say, well, that's because of their work in the late 60s. Like, yeah, and early 70s. Okay, somewhat, to a degree. It's just now they have the looks and the MTV to kind of help push them out there.
Mm-hmm.
But look, I wanted to come on and say, okay, look, obviously this isn't great. It's compared to Zeppelin, it's not that good. Compared to some bad company, it's not that good. But I listened to it a few more times with my 50 plus year old ears. And it's not perfect. It's not my favorite album or anything, but it is not that bad. And in some ways, there are some improvements versus the first album.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I was not super pumped to listen to this record when we got into it because, again, there weren't really any big hits off of it that I remembered. This was kind of you had the first album where you were full of excitement for this band, and now it's kind of like, well, I guess we'll put out a second record because that's what we said we were going to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is better. I can see that they've kind of made some improvements in the song structure. There's more stuff that we like to listen to on here. My only concern on this was it does seem like there was some recycled material on here. And you figure you got these two dudes who are prolific songwriters. Mm-hmm. Why are you going back and mining old stuff if you were super into this project?
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I think maybe because they did some shows in late 84 before the first firm album ever really came out. So they kind of were doing all that to get prepared. Then the album comes out. Then they do shows. They do a tour. Then they have to do Live Aid. And then they start making the next one. Well, how hard does Jimmy really have to work? I mean, mm-hmm. He's got money rolling in every single day.
Right. And that's what I'm wondering. It's like, hey, we said we were going to do this other record. Oh, yeah, okay. Let me call you back when I've got some stuff. Oh man, because I mean, yeah, if you can sit there and get these checks in the mailbox for stuff you've already done, that's already popular. That. Am I really really that excited about going there, putting myself out there for people like us to say, well, it's not as good as Led Zeppelin.
Shut up. It's true. But then also, these aren't small checks, generally speaking, from Led Zeppelin sales. Like, these are pretty big checks that come in. Also, this is 1986. So CDs are starting to grow in popularity. Mm-hmm. What do people do when the new format becomes huge? Go and buy your old records or the ones that you always wanted but didn't mm-hmm. get on CD. And so, or like us, it was just a year or so before we were starting to be turned on to Led Zeppelin and started buying Led Zeppelin CDs and tapes, right? So a whole new generation's about to kind of come pick them up. Mm-hmm. And because of the new format, a lot of people were replacing their albums and tapes with CDs, and Zeppelin is at the forefront of that. So, Jimmy's getting plenty of money. Another thing that's a little different is they had Julian Mendelsohn also act as a producer on the album. The first one was just Jimmy and Paul as producers. Jimmy and Paul as producers. You got this Australian Julian Mendelsohn to come in, and he had done some technical stuff. He did some remixes. I think he did the last mix of Frankie's Relax.
Okay.
Which kind of helped propel him up. And it looks like The Firm Mean Business was his first real production. Now, when Jimmy Page is there, I don't know if you're really the producer. You're a co-producer, an assistant producer, or you're producing while he's in the booth playing guitar.
You press the buttons that he tells you to press.
Right. You get paid,
Gotcha.
Whatever. But I mean, he ended up working with the Pet Shop Boys and Level 42 and Nick Kershaw, of course, who, just does nothing but make hits.
Nothing but hits.
Nothing but hits. But then he worked with Liza Minnelli and Dusty Springfield, and eventually even worked with Paul McCartney on Off the Ground. He was eventually nominated, I think, for in England for Producer of the Year. And then I think he just moved back to Australia to run More Noise, his studio, because it's easier to just do that than deal with artists and have to produce records and all that kind of stuff. Because, I don't know. I didn't know him. I mean, I don't know Pet Shop Boys producers. Sorry. So in some ways, it's better. And All the King's Horses was number one on the rock chart for a month. Whereas Radioactive was on the number one on the rock chart for like a week. So in some ways you're doing better, but then you have to look at it from the standpoint of what else was on the airwaves. What are they competing with, right? Okay. So if you look at just rock list, now this is from February 15th, 1986. So if the album came out, what did they all come out? February 2nd, is that right?
February 3rd, 1986.
Okay. Sorry, February 3rd, 1986 it comes out. So this is February 15th, not even 2 weeks after. All the King's Horses is number one on the rock charts. Well, In Excess Is What You Need is number 2. Hearts These Dreams is 3. Sanctify Yourself from Simple Minds is 4. All I Need Is a Miracle by Mike and the Mechanics is 6. Loverboy, Mr. ROCK in the USA by John Cougar, Menstrual Cramp. Dancing in the Ruins by Blue Oyster Cult, one of my very favorite latter-day tracks that a lot of people... But Your Love by The Outfield. I mean, this is what you're kind of competing with as far as the rock tracks go. So are you really competing with In Excess and Simple Minds? Or is it just because, hey, Ahmet Artican can push a couple of buttons and get this to go straight to the top? Now, I think it's a hell of a song, but is it really leading the way? It isn't changing things in the industry.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. It's right before, what was Guns N' Roses, 87, I think. So it's kind of right before that hard rock, hair rock era would come in. Yeah, you're right on the cusp. I kind of forgot about Your Love from the Outfield. I'm like, yeah, that was a pretty big record in 86.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, you're right. Is that the material, or is it the record company saying, hey, you're going to play this?
Yeah. So who knows?
Hi guys, this is Chris Slade, drummer of AC/DC and many others, and you're listening to the ugly, I mean really ugly, Werewolf in London.
So let's kind of start to get into it here, track by track. We don't need to spend a ton of time. There's only 8 tracks. It's about the same length as the first one, which was 9 tracks. So some of the songs are a little bit longer, and some of them are a little proggier. And look, Led Zeppelin's 2 albums, if you count Presence and In Through the Outdoors, their last 2 albums, are pretty proggy. And John Paul Jones obviously played a very big role in Through the Outdoor versus Jimmy. So I feel like there's still elements of that progginess, not to mention the first song, Fortune Hunter, was a song composed by XYZ, which was Jimmy Page and Chris Squire and Alan White of Yes jamming together. And it's XYZ because X Yes, X Zeppelin, because after 1980, Yes broke up until 1983 when they put the 90125 album and lineup together.
Interesting.
Don't know. I mean, and I think some stuff was reworked and ended up on later Yes albums, and some stuff was reworked and ended up here and ended up, I think, on Outrider. Jimmy never throws anything away. Plus, he's not real prolific anymore, so he kind of can't.
It's funny you say Chris Squire, because I don't see his name anywhere here.
Yeah. So it was completely reworked. I don't know if Chris...
Was it?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't in those sessions.
It's funny how that goes. Oh, is he not standing here right now? Well, just take his name off of there.
Yeah, so, I mean, the first album was, I probably get these numbers wrong, but let's say it was 5 co-writes between Jimmy and Paul. I think about 3 Rodgers solo writes. And then they had, the Righteous Brothers, You Lost That Loving Fingerling cover for some goddamn reason. Not sure what it is. But Fortune Hunter sounds like Jimmy on guitar.
Yes, absolutely. That riff is very Led Zeppelin-y. And so when this starts off, you're like, okay, here we go. This sounds great. Now this is what I've been waiting for. Cool. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is a song that he's reworked. Okay, now that makes more sense. Kind of like on the first record, you had what was the name of that song? It started off as Swan Song and ended up being Midnight Moonlight. Right. That's what it was. Yeah, we're kind of in the same thing. To me, the one song that really sounds like Led Zeppelin is basically an old Led Zeppelin E track.
And
yeah. I think for a while they wanted XYZ wanted Robert Plant too, and he was just like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
I'm not coming back into this.
Sorry.
I just got off the bus. I'm not getting back on. But Tony Franklin, look, Tony's probably the all-star on this album, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. As he kind of was on the first record.
Yeah, his playing is unique. It sets all sorts of texture and tone. It doesn't sound like everything else because the fretless bass is different. And he's doing all sorts of cool stuff on this. Now, to me, the solo by Jimmy is a little weak and sloppy. Well, that's kind of, sloppy is kind of Jimmy's thing, but weak really isn't. And then just before they get to 3.5 minutes in, it slows way down.
Yeah,
and then
okay.
The fretless bass is front and center. Now, what did you think about this change in the song?
I thought it was kind of cool because, part of it is that's why I'm here. I love Jimmy Page, but really I'm here to hear Tony Franklin play because you knew he was on top of his game at this point in time. And they let him kind of just not really do his own thing, but he definitely puts his touches on these songs. So, yeah, it's cool to hear him out in front. But one of the big problems I have with this song is that the vocals come in too early. Like it's like maybe like too, it's too quick. I'm like, I need a little more music here. I need a little more of that riff before you start singing. But I did like the breakdown part because after a while that main riff gets a little repetitive. It's cool, but after a while it's like, okay, is there anything else? No, is that it? All right.
Yeah. So, the question is, should it have just been a little shorter, maybe? It's a 5-minute song.
Yeah.
Could it have been a 4-minute song or a 3.5-minute song? Maybe. Here's the breakdown before 3.5 where it slows down. It's kind of an odd stop. And it's like they create a mood for a totally different song for 30, 45 seconds, whatever it is. And then it picks back up with a riff again.
Yeah, it almost seems like the first time you went through it, like, is this another did we change like quickly and you didn't tell me, but then they bring it back. Nope, still the same one.
So, and so that part is actually kind of cool, but I don't know that I would include it in the opening track. I feel like look, you've got a rocker. It's a good start overall. It's got a good riff. Tony's doing cool stuff on there. Paul sounds good. Do you need that part? I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying for the first track, you're starting the album. Do you need to put that in there?
You're right. The length on it is 5 minutes, or that's what it's credited. Do you make it for 15, maybe 4:20 and leave that bit out.
Yeah. And then it can be the B-side, the extended part or something like that. Like, my last note on it was, it's a rocker. A good start overall, but something's off. Like, you're just trying to get a little too cute. And I know you're a big prog band kind of at the end there, and you can do all sorts of cool things. You've got these cool drummer and bass player who could do all sorts of neat stuff, speed up, slow down, give you great texture. Sure, why not throw it in there? Well, because you can ruin a good song by throwing something in there that isn't necessary. But again, it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I don't know that it served the song. I'm not sure it did.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from on that. I just like the fact that this was kind of a peek behind the curtain to something that never got off the ground. So at least they kind of salvaged it and brought it back here. I don't know if that ever would have gone anywhere, XYZ, because one of the notes that I have is that Plant, you said, he didn't want to get back on the bus. But the other thing was, I think that, and this is probably Chris Squire's doing, the music was just too complicated. Like, it was just like, there's too much stuff in this. I think I'm going to go ahead and pass.
Yeah, well, if the demos are somewhere, maybe they could do something with them. You need Alan's estate, you need Squire's estate, you need Jimmy to lead it, and then you got to get somebody to throw vocals over it. I doubt we ever see any of those.
No.
Maybe we would hear the demos somehow one day, and you'd have to overpay for that privilege, but let's not worry about that. Let's move on to Cadillac. This is not a good second track. especially
Okay.
having this good rocker. I understand
Okay.
wanting to do a change of pace and all, but you got to be kidding me putting it this early in the tracks, man. Seriously.
It slows way down.
Way down.
And I mean it's cool because again, I'm here to hear Tony Franklin play, and he's got that fat sound and he's taking the bass and sliding it all over the place, and that sounds cool. But you're right, this is just you had the momentum, you killed all the momentum from the first track.
Killed it, and the damn song's 6 minutes long. If it was 4 minutes long, it was going to feel long, but it's 6 minutes long. I mean, look, it's bassy and experimental. It's kind of cool. And look, Tony dominates this. This is
Correct.
Jimmy's just kind of making some noise.
Yeah.
This is my invitation. I want to change your destination. Morning rain. Oh, she's mean, looking nasty in bed.
Tony is setting the tone.
Which actually is not bad. I like the change of pace where you say, okay, the bass is gonna be out in front, and yeah, just do whatever you want, Jimmy. It kind of sounds like he's stumbling around on this.
Exactly.
But I think that was the point. You just kind of you hear him play, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna do this then, and put something over it. Yeah, it just says I've got kind of drones on, needs like a breakout or a solo or something to kill the monotony.
Or to be 2 minutes shorter or something. I mean, and this is written by Paul and Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
But, and look, I look at the lyrics. Are they talking about a woman here? Maybe so. Maybe they're talking about, hey, I can change your life. So come get in the car with me. Well, I'll take you someplace you would never be without me, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you need is my Cadillac. Oh, this is my invitation. I want to change your destination. Oh, don't worry about your reputation. No. I want to give your mama an explanation. That's probably Jimmy with his young girls. Come on and ride. This is the moment. You don't need to go home and pack. All you need is inside. Don't worry about coming back, that kind of thing. So, but she's long, she's sleek, she's black. Baby, step inside my Cadillac. For a song about a cool car, it's not real rockin'. It's very long. And I love the fretless bass, but it's too dark and funky and murky, if you ask me. And for 6 minutes, I mean, honestly, it's almost unlistenable. As good as Slade is here and as good as Tony is, there's no real great guitar work.
No.
And for 6 minutes, God, I mean, they could have put this should be the second to last song, not the second song. I just think they mistracked this in a huge way.
And yeah, it's second to last, and then cut like 2 minutes out of it, and then we'll talk.
And then it's fine. Kudos for being experimental. Kudos to Tony making a lot of cool sounds. What's the opposite of kudos? Booze.
Yes.
Booze for the length and the fact that nobody wants to listen to that. The good news is we take a turn back towards the light with all the King's horses. A Rodgers right. To me, this is so catchy. And I guess I probably remember it from when I was young, though I didn't know it. It was one of those songs that was in the air and I didn't know who it was by.
Okay.
I'd known Radioactive the year before and I know who the firm were. I didn't catch this when it was going up the charts. It's apparently staying on the top of the rock chart for a month. I didn't catch it be like, oh, that's the firm and that's their follow-up to Radioactive and that kind of thing. But it was in the air. And so when it came to the time of Napster, when you kind of go back, oh yeah, Jimmy Page was the firm. Let me just go rip those Jimmy Page firm songs so I can listen to them. That's how I kind of got to know the firm and Mean Business. And when this one came on, and then you could see the video, which was big budget, and everybody looked good in the video. I mean, Jimmy's moving well. Tony's hopping around looking cool as hell with his braided hair. Chris is just back there, shaved head, banging out the drums. And Rodgers' hair is interesting, but he can still belt out those songs, man.
He's got his little mid-'80s mullet going on. I don't know what Tony's doing. He's got, it's short up top, it's long and braided in the back. It's very interesting. It wasn't like, man, I need a haircut. What are you going to do? No. That was a choice for you to do that.
Yeah, it's the 80s,
Yeah.
you gotta,
But it always looks like in these videos and even in the radioactive videos, it always looks like he's just like they got him on a leash. Like he wants to just go nuts on the bass, but it's like, nah, stay over there. Don't. He's jumping around, but you can't really leave this space on the stage. He just wants to kill that thing.
Well, he's young, right? And
Yeah.
he's 22, 23 at this point. Like we just said, Jimmy's in his 40s. Chris
And,
is...
and a hard 40s, too.
Yeah, he's lived hard. Rodgers kind of the same way. He wasn't super into drugs, but I think he did some drinking and stuff. He's not a kid anymore. Neither is Slade. He made 8 records and toured for like a decade with Man for Man. That's a lot of work, you know.
Well, the problem with Slade is that he's bald. So like you could like the first time I ever remember seeing him was with AC/DC. I'm like, this guy could be 25 or he could be 70. I don't know. Like he just has that look on his face like he's going to just beat you up.
Yes.
But he's kind of ageless back there. You have no clue how old he is.
That's true. But I got to tell you, I love the song. This is a Rodgers solo, right? Mm-hmm. And there's some keyboards on there, which I'm pretty sure is Tony, which does kind of set the stage for it. But the video is good. It's kind of got them on stage, but it's also kind of following like a Japanese love story from kind of like back in the day of the samurai, you know,
Yeah.
and these two lovers can't be together. So, you know, they take him and tie him up and kidnap him and blah, blah, blah. It's telling a bit of a story there, but really good riff from Jimmy. He's not overdoing it. It was back with Fortune Hunter. It is a single. Like I said, it went to #1 on mainstream rock, but only 61 on Billboard. So it's not a huge hit. Rock hit, sure, but overall hit, it's not penetrating the public consciousness, which means it's then not going to get overplayed on MTV, and I don't think it did very well around the world.
And all the king's horses, baby. Oh, the king's man couldn't storm this tower. I've loved my friend. I've loved my friend.
I think it's a great shot of everybody working together on this. And
Okay.
I think that it's a great song. It may be their crowning achievement as a band as far as the best
Okay.
song. Maybe.
Yeah.
It is short. It's the shortest song on the album by far at, 3 1/4 or so. But that's because there's no fat on it.
Yeah, there's no big instrumental like breakout or anything like that. There's no bridge in it. Yeah, it is kind of tight. I mean, it's good for a single because it's nice and compact.
Yeah, because Fortune Hunter, love it, but then there's that breakdown.
Yeah.
Again, not that it's bad, but it kind of changes the song, almost creates a second song, and it gets you to 5 minutes. Cadillac just drones on forever. You're just trying to get out of there. But this one's short, sweet, to the point. I can listen to this over and over. I don't get sick of this song. To me, it still sounds pretty damn good.
Yeah,
And I think
but
that Tony's got a lot to do with it.
Right, but I think you're right. It doesn't sound anything like Radioactive. It doesn't sound anything
No.
like Satisfaction Guaranteed. So I could see how in 1986, if you weren't really paying attention, you wouldn't automatically be drawn to, oh, this is the new single from The Firm. I can't wait to go out and buy Mean Business. I mean, they must have had some kind of big MTV premiere, I would think, but I don't remember seeing it.
Oh, yeah, I can almost guarantee you there was a world premiere
Yeah.
of this. Maybe for the Live in Peace too, which was the second one. But to me, again, I think it's the highlight of the album and maybe the highlight of the band.
Okay.
Maybe. They did some cool stuff live where they stretched some stuff out. So it's like seeing them live is a little different, but not many people really did.
Did they even tour for this record?
They did. And they
Okay.
toured arenas in America, in North America. So moving on. I love that one. Moving on
Okay.
to Live in Peace. That's the second one. Second single, I should say. And another video. You've got Paul sitting at the piano, kind of playing this haunting thing, because he wrote it. But it's one that had been around for a while, because there's a live version of Live in Peace from Hammersmith, December 1984, which is before The Firm came out. And it appeared on a promotional single in 1985 as a B-side to Tear Down the Walls, which, I mean, probably came out in late 85 to kind of prime the pump to say, okay, The Firm are back and here's what's next. What do you think about Live in Peace?
Okay, let's just talk about that live clip real quick. Is that the one where Jimmy's wearing like a white shirt and his hair is kind of shorter?
I don't know.
Okay, because I think I saw a clip and he looks bad in that deal. Like he looks very sweaty, very kind of confused on stage. He's got the cigarette hanging out of there. So yeah, this is an interesting song because it came off of his '83 album Cut Loose.
Right.
So why did you think you wanted to remake this? I mean, part of it was maybe I can make this sound better with other people than
better
me
band.
playing all the
Yeah.
playing all the stuff. I mean, this is kind of the it's the Cold War. Why can't we get along here? We're on the cusp of nuclear destruction. The video is very strange. It has some stuff. It looks like, Soviet bloc stuff. Then you have them on stage. Then there's a woman in the jungle with a snake.
Yeah,
Okay.
what's that about? Yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me. They look really good in this video, though. Jimmy's got the purple suit on.
Yeah.
He's got his hair looking nice. He's got the Telecaster. Not in love with that. I want to see the Les Pauls, but that's fine. He looks good. Tony's bouncing around again, and it's just this video I was excited for because you get to see them a little more in it.
Right. It's more of a performance video.
Correct.
And they're standing on that square stage, which has the firm logo on it.
That is very cool.
Which is
Yes.
kind of cool, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes for a cool video. Look, Rodgers really shines here because they do slow it down and it's just his voice against maybe a little piano or light drums or whatever.
Yeah.
Darkness fills the night. She tries to steal your soul away, killing the sunlight. She spread the shadow through the day. Yeah, why will
So it's definitely better than Cut Loose. Like you said, Paul played all the instruments on there. It's like, we'll let Jimmy Page play guitar and Tony
Right.
play bass and keys, let Chris handle the drums, which he slows down to really let Paul's voice shine through.
And then you've got the solo here that starts off a little kind of slow and then heats up, and then you say, okay, this is why I'm here. This is what I kind of wanted to see on the first record is some Page solo stuff.
Yeah.
Just let him go. Take him off the chain.
I say we finally hear some guitar heroics. They aren't earth-shattering, but they are solid.
Right.
And I think Jimmy actually delivers pretty well here. And maybe that's because he didn't have to write the whole thing or come up with it. He just kind of has to, Paul's got this thing. This is how I can make it better kind of thing.
And it's cool too because during that solo, you've got Tony who's underneath, who's also kind of soloing.
Yeah.
Like he's not overshadowing Jimmy, but he's down there doing some cool stuff that complement the guitar, which I like.
Yeah, the fretless bass shines here. The keyboards also play a role, which I believe is Tony, because Paul's playing the piano. It was backed with Free to Live, but it didn't really chart anywhere. My final note was, it's a pretty good song. Very well composed, very
I feel
well
like
produced.
there's a but there. Okay.
Should it have charted in 86, given everything that was going on in 86?
I would think so. I mean, again, you've got it's very topical as far as what they're talking about. If All the King's Horses were on the charts, this should have been there too.
Yeah, but that was, All the King's Horses is a rocker. It's not a ballad, obviously, but it's a slow lament. Get some great playing on it, but does it really fit into the 1986 world of pop? I don't know. I mean, I like it. I think it's actually an achievement sonically. They did a very good job on it. But are you really going to win hearts and minds of people who weren't already Zeppelin and Bad Company fans with the song?
Yeah. I want to see Michael Hutchinson. That's what I want to see.
Exactly. So I think it's good. It's a solid song. It's an achievement they can be proud of as far as putting together such a good song, but that doesn't mean that it's made for the masses.
Right. And then the other thing too is, why did you do this? Why did you put this song on here? Did you really feel like I know I can do this better? Or was it, hey boys, we only have 8 songs here. We need something else. Hold on a second. Let me recycle this thing.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe Jimmy's not coming up with anything. Paul's like, well, look, I always thought I could do this better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we flip it over and we go to Tear Down the Walls. Now, that's just Jimmy's riff to start with the fretless coming and Slade coming in later.
Yeah.
This is not bad stuff from Jimmy here, and the riff isn't bad either.
No, and I like Slade. It's simple, but he's just pounding that thing. So it sounds kind of cool, and it's got to be a little tough for him because you've got these other two guys who are, I mean, you'd probably say virtuosos, and you can't have like three of the instruments going off. So he's got to set the tone, be real solid to let them branch off from there. But yeah, I like that how he's playing the drums here, and it kind of seems like Rodgers goes a little bit sappy, but then it pulls him back. Come back to more of a rock-ish feel,
Yeah.
I guess.
I think I'm with you there.
I got a feeling that's growing inside. I think I know what's on your mind. I want to tear down the walls, see them crumble and fall in the midst of the time that burned forever.
I think there's fretless monster all over this thing. That's great. And yeah, Chris is such a pro. He can lay down exactly what you need so that everybody else can do their thing.
Correct.
I don't love the singing at the end where Tony comes, tear down the wall. I think that kind of ruins it a little bit because they only do it like 3 times or something like that. But
Yeah.
overall, I think it's an okay song. Paul is very powerful on this.
Yeah.
And there's lots of fretless monster on it. I
There's
think
a
it's a
little-
pretty good song.
Yeah, and there's a little breakdown at the end where it's just the bass and the drums, which is kind of cool because you let them shine a little bit. Yeah, it is a little bit, the chorus part maybe we didn't need.
Yeah. So again, Paul is powerful. Lots of fretless monster. Jimmy's kind of eh. And again, although I think it's a solid song, they kind of tend to ruin it with the chorus at the end. So it's like they're so close, and they just kind of make it hard to love them sometimes.
Hi, I'm Deborah Bonham,
And I am the Irish werewolf in England, Peter Bullock.
and you're listening to the Ugly American Werewolf in London.
Now, look, next song, Dreaming, written by Tony Franklin. It's possible this is the best song on the album.
Interesting that it's the one outlier from somebody else.
Yeah. And they did let him write on the first one because he's the kid, right?
Right.
You know, he's-
Right. Yeah, shut up and sit in the corner there.
Yeah. Play what I tell you to play. But this is, I think it's cool to hear from someone different, especially someone
Absolutely.
so young.
And especially a solo write, not like, Paige Rodgers and Tony Franklin. No, this was all his doing.
That's right. And he even played rhythm guitar on it. I've heard Tony on another show once saying that he was showing in the studio, Jimmy, this is how it goes kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And you'd think, okay, well, let me do it because I'm the guitar player kid, not you. I'll take care of that. He's like, no, you're doing it fine. You just do that. You just lay it down.
That's cool.
So that is cool of him, and
Yeah.
it is slower, but it's got a good melody and it's got the sickest fretless bass all over it. And it really makes for an interesting song. And Rodgers is really just belting this one out. He is maybe more impressive than Tony on this. Jimmy isn't overly impressive, but it's a good song. He really just kind of adds some textures on the solo. He doesn't blow minds. And he's kind of, he's doing some picking on that, but
Out of line, falling either side, running out of space, living on the edge. Don't stop me, I'm only dreaming of you, baby.
I love the rhythm on this one. This is actually a darn good song, and it's about the same length as Cadillac,
Yeah, 6
but
minutes.
it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it.
Well, it does have kind of a breakdown part about maybe more than halfway through where it kind of sounds a little more Led Zeppelin-y when he's talking about, you remember lately how you love to hate me. It changes the kind of the feel of the song. So I think that's what it keeps it from droning on. And then when they say, don't take it away, that sounds like a very Yes chorus to me. The voices coming together. That's way better than the last one. So I think it's got some more pieces to it than Cadillac, which makes it seem not so long.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, it binds rock with some of the textures of the day. Something that maybe Tony was a little more in touch with than the other guys. Honestly, I would let Tony write more.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You hear this song and you think to yourself, maybe we could have had him. I mean, maybe not start it, but hey, Tony, what do you think about this? Let's get him involved with the writing a little more.
Yeah, they didn't play it live.
Oh.
They played like 6 songs off the album, so that's 75% of the album, but they didn't play it live, which I think is too bad because it's actually pretty damn good, and it would have given Tony a big boost of confidence, and if the audience reacted well to it, then maybe there could have been a third firm album, because then Jimmy and Paul don't maybe necessarily feel like they have to write all the songs. I mean, I know they want to for financial reasons, for control of the band reasons, but this stands out as different to me. And good rhythm. Jimmy's not riffing so much as he is picking. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and for somebody who doesn't write or who isn't a singer, the lyrics, I mean, they stand up to everything else on this record. So it's, I think it is pretty good. I think they missed the opportunity not including him on some of the other stuff.
Now, as we move to Free to Live, again, this is where Cadillac ought to be. The second to last song, because it's hard to listen to that whole thing all the way through and usually save the worst song for the second to last. Free to Live is not bad, but it is kind of bland, and it's why I think they chose it as the second to last song, right? I mean, Tony stands out to start. This is Tony's album as much as it is anyone's. Jimmy, again, is not standing out. He's just kind of playing what's required, right?
Right.
It's kind of slow, and then Jimmy's solo isn't bad. It fits the song, but it's just not special. And even though you see some highlights of Page doing some cool things throughout the album, you never really get that guitar fix that you've been hoping for, right?
You heard it on, what was it? Was it Live in Peace we were talking about? Yeah, Live in Peace is probably the big solo, but yeah, you're always waiting for him to just step out and take off, and it never happens.
Not really.
So on this one, I've got bass comes in fat. It kind of the tone kind of switches when the lyrics come in.
Now that I'm free to take it all easy, take all my time and do what I please. Nobody around me that's pulling me down, building me up just to turn me around. Baby,
The solo is, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not Jimmy Page worthy, I don't think. So
it fits the song, but it doesn't really stand out.
Right. Yeah. If you didn't know who it was, you wouldn't say, "Oh, that's Jimmy Page." There's no way. I mean, we're in the second to last song, so you know what that means or what they thought of this.
Right.
So, yeah.
And it's Page and Rodgers, right? Just like Tear Down the Walls was to open it. And I don't know. I mean, Baby, I Got You, like the summer has the sun, and it's all I can do just to walk and not to run. Baby, you got me, and that's all I have to give. Together we'll be free to live. I mean, that's not earth shattering. That's pretty simple stuff, really. I think it fits the mood of the album. So it fits in, but it's more like a title credits song from like a movie or a TV show or something like that. The Baby verses I didn't like, but the other parts I did like, Baby, I Got You, like the summer has Baby, You Got Me. Yeah, but down through the years, I've been looking for something, chasing a dream, a wild bird on the wing, looking for something I just couldn't find. That's better to me. Decent musicianship. I have to stop being negative. I know, but it's kind of bland.
Well, I think that's the problem, is that if you took everybody out of this, is it a bad song? I mean, it's okay. But then you say, wait, who was on this record? This should have been a lot better than that.
And it's a B-side.
Yeah.
So obviously they didn't love it. But hey, anyway. And then wait, did they play that live instead of Dreaming? Let me just look, because that would
hurt my feelings if I was Tony Franklin.
Okay, it doesn't look like they did.
Okay.
Yeah, they would typically play All the King's Horses, Cadillac, Fortune Hunter, Live in Peace, Spirit of Love, which is the last song, and Tear Down the Walls. So Tony's song Dreaming, they wouldn't play, which I think is an oversight. And then they wouldn't play this one. Otherwise, they would play the whole album. Now, we just mentioned it ends with Spirit of Love. I feel like this is intended to be the last song the whole time, really. I mean, it's epic a little bit, and it's positive.
Right. Yeah, we're sending you off with this one.
Yeah, it's upbeat and uplifting, and then it has some backup singers to kind of give it a little something there. Jimmy's trying to wail a bit, but honestly, it sounds a little tinny and falls flat to me.
Okay, so I've got solo is not bad, but it feels half-hearted. Like, okay, I'll give you something. Here you go.
Right, and then that's it.
You're down on your knees. The whole world is counting, and you know it would please your enemies to count you out, reach down inside and find some.
But it's actually a pretty decent song, and it's not a bad way to end the album, and honestly end the band, because that's it. I mean, they put this out, they go do their last tour. I'm sure they made some good money, and then Jimmy's like, yeah, I'm going to go back to counting my money. Eventually he'd get his act together to do Outrider. Eventually Paul Rodgers would get his act together to do The Law, I think was his next project with Kenny Jones.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Chris Slade would, he may have done Michael Schenker before he went to AC/DC. I'm a little sketchy on that timeline. And Tony would eventually do Blue Murder. And it may have been about that time that he actually moved to California, because he kind of grew up in a pub, I think, that his parents owned, and his parents were musicians. So like he grew up like playing the piano and that kind of stuff. And then it's funny, as I saw Tony like on socials, we've interacted with him a little bit, showing here I am taking the jet with the firm. I was 22 years old, 23 years old. I thought it would last forever.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah, that had to be a huge deal for him, just being so young and having these three dudes who had been around the music business for so long, and you know, everywhere that you would go, I can't believe that. Yeah, and you just feel like, the firm is going to go on forever, and then and then the other kind of problem I have with this deal is the record cover.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, what? I mean, the first one, okay, it was just the black cover with the logo on it. Okay,
right.
I get it.
Got it.
That was very Bad Company, right? We're going to get them in here. We're going to introduce the new product. It's a car with headlights on, and there's woman's legs, and then I don't even know what's the bottom part is. It's a reflection of what's going on above it, like lights, like a marquee or something.
Yeah, with flip side, upside down.
No, this is not a good. If you're trying to sell this thing, I don't want to look at this thing stand alone.
And it was done by Aubrey Poe Powell, who was, of course, part of Hypnosis back in the day.
Okay.
Who did, a lot of Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, among others, album covers. So, of course, you're going to work with him on that. I don't think it's very good execution, to be perfectly honest. It doesn't scream to me, oh, this is really one of those great album covers that we've always wanted. Steve Marr did the original cover art, so I assume he came up with the logo. But they're like, oh, no, let's go ahead. We had a gold record, so let's go ahead and bring Aubrey in.
It just doesn't. It's kind of complex. It's dark. So if I'm
it's hard to see. Yeah.
If I'm flipping through the records in the bin here, looking at this, I wouldn't say, "Oh, what is this? This is interesting." Where if you want to talk about some of the other Hypnosis covers, you want to put those up on the wall and just enjoy them as art. This is not one of them.
No, and it went to top 20 in the UK, US, and Canada. That's the first album, The Firm. Top 20. That's pretty good. But the second one, Mean Business here, 22 US Billboard, that's not horrible. It's down from 15 or 16 or something like that, but it's not horrible. But UK, it only hit 46. In Canada, it only hit 37. So it's not performing as well. And maybe Atlantic was like, yeah, the first one wasn't huge. Then we spent the money on these videos. And now this one isn't selling because it doesn't even go gold. It doesn't chart as high. So I think because he probably had to pay them through the nose. It's not like you pay them new band we've never heard of rate. You have to pay them Jimmy Page and Paul Rodgers rate.
Right. Yeah.
So it was probably expensive for Atlantic to do it. And when it doesn't work out, they're like, okay, you know what? They may have said, oh, we're only going to do 2. But I think Ahmet Ertegun probably said, boys, you're done. Call me when you get back together with your old bands.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I don't know. I think the project had probably run its course. I mean, like we said at the beginning, if this thing had been a huge hit, you probably would have seen more from them. But yeah, it just didn't work out the way that they thought it was going to.
And honestly, that was kind of the case for all of them the rest of the decade. I mean, Outrider came with a lot of fanfare, didn't sell that well. The tour didn't do well at all. He had to cancel a bunch of dates that were undersold. For Paul Rodgers, Bad Company kind of went on without him. They had Brian Howe as their new lead singer. So it's like, well, we don't need Paul anymore. Mm-hmm. And then Paul, like I said, kind of did that ill-fated The Law group with Kenny Jones that kind of went nowhere, kind of a dumb name. And then Tony did Blue Murder. Well, a lot of people tell you with Carmine and John Sykes and Tony, that's a killer lineup. And that first album was great, but it didn't really go anywhere. And then shortly after that, hair bands kind of just had to go all the way away.
Yeah. And so that was the end of that. It's tough. I mean, it's got to be a rude awakening when things don't work out for you like that. Like you figure, okay, the train's never going to stop rolling. But yeah, people's tastes change, or for whatever reason, the album doesn't take off. I mean, it wasn't promoted enough. It was promoted incorrectly to the wrong people. I don't know. But yeah, that's it, the whole idea of, the album's good, but no one listened to it. What are you going to do?
Well, I'm with you there. Yeah. So it's sad, but I mean, look, Tony got noticed. Tony, people are like, wow, that kid can really play. And so he did get to go on Do Blue Murder, which you'd have thought with John Sykes and Carmine Appice, like, this is going to be awesome, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it just didn't. I mean, it didn't really take off. And I guess it was one of those, like, first Cozy Powell was in it. And then they got Carmine. They had Ray Gillen on lead vocals at first. They had Tony Martin on vocals for a while. John Sykes decided, hey, I can sing, and kind of decided to do it his way there. Yeah, it's Tony as a session guy and as a guy who can come and fill in. He's awesome, and he still does it today. Like, you watch Tony's feed, you'd be like, oh yeah, John Fogerty's bass player just came down sick, so now I've got a week worth of gigs, and those are good gigs, and they are to good crowds, and he gets paid pretty well for it, I'm sure, but it doesn't make him a household name. Chris was huge to get into AC/DC for Thunderstruck and to make Thunderstruck so special. And it ended up giving him, was it 3 or maybe 4 stints with the band, which are big paychecks, baby. Mm-hmm. But Jimmy never really did anything huge. Coverdale Page, we liked it. Public didn't love it that much.
Yeah.
Like, well, I think platinum, but that's it.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit too late also by the time that came around, especially, and I think it was probably more to do with David Coverdale at that point in time. Like, people were over Whitesnake and that. But then he gets to get back together with Robert Plant, and they have a successful run there doing the reworked Zeppelin stuff. And then he goes and just manages the catalog.
That's right. He just manages Led Zeppelin because there's plenty of money in that. And people come up to him and tell him, I love Led Zeppelin. They don't run up, oh man, when's the 40th anniversary edition of Mean Business coming out? I might like to hear the live album. I might like to have a nice high quality video to go with it. We're in a small population there, my friend.
Yeah.
And so it's cool that Jimmy didn't just stop. He could have, and it kind of looked like he was going to, or maybe stop living even, because he was in such rough shape.
Yeah.
So at least he went out, he made some new music, he did tour, he did it with some awesome musicians. And I would say in some ways this is better than the first album.
Well, I think they had probably a little more time to work together. They had a separate producer, which I never think it's a good idea for people to produce their own records by themselves. You need that person in there to just kind of...
Except when it's Jimmy Page and he produced
but even still,
all of Led Zeppelin by himself.
You gotta... I think that you just get too big. Your head gets too big, and you have to just say, okay, I think either you have to stop, or you have to say, we're putting this to the side. I don't know. I think that they just had a little more time to work together on this one. And so the compositions the album as a whole, I think, was better than the first one.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And Jimmy probably needed another voice. It's one thing if you're running the rock world in your 20s. Now you're in your 40s and music has changed quite a bit. It would be good to have a producer who can push back.
Yeah.
Not that we're taking away Jimmy's producer credit, not that he's not going to go in and mix stuff up or throw in new guitar parts. He's always going to do that kind of thing. But I just feel like part of the Stones' success is they would turn the keys over to someone else in the production booth. Yeah, it's produced by the Glimmer Twins, but what about Chris Kimsey helping out?
Yeah.
That makes a big difference. Don maybe wasn't the right answer, but let someone else help
Just
guide
have a voice
you
in
there.
there. Yeah. Just keep you from going off the side of the road here.
Now, the fact of the matter is all these people are still alive. So you could possibly have some kind of performance. A tour seems ridiculous. And I don't know if Paul can do it. Paul has some health issues. And Chris he's in his 80s still drumming. He doesn't need a big rigorous tour. Jimmy doesn't need it for money. And if they'd have to do theaters, he wouldn't want to do it anyway. He wants to do, if he's going to tour, which I don't think he would, he's going to want to do arenas and stadiums. He's not going to want to do theaters. But they could get together and do something. They could record.
They could.
They won't.
And that would be cool. But yeah, I don't think that would ever happen.
I agree. And probably it shouldn't. And so maybe we just keep it where it is.
Yeah, just leave it alone. Just let it be what it is.
Let it be. We all were different in the mid 80s. Let's just leave it at that. It's tough to review something that you want to like, and it just kind of falls short of expectations. There's actually nothing worse. There's nothing better than finding something that you didn't know existed, or you didn't think it would be good, and then you listen and you're like, hey, that's pretty good. But there's nothing worse than saying, God, I want this to be good. I hope this is good. And then it just falls a little flat. I don't think it was Tony Franklin's fault. I think he did an amazing job on the album. And his song Dreaming, well, that shows me he can write a song and that he probably deserved to do more songwriting on this album and in the future. But with Jimmy and Paul in charge, it's going to be dominated by them, even if they had to retread songs that hadn't worked out previously. I think the lack of success of the record kind of led them and the record company to say, let's just call it a day. That's enough. We're still making money off of Led Zeppelin's back catalog. We're still making money off Bad Company's back catalog. We tried the new thing, and it didn't work. And Jimmy would try a couple more things, right? Outrider, Coverdale Page, but they didn't have that huge success like he had in Zeppelin. And then when he got back together with Robert Plant to do Unleaded, that had huge success. And he decided, hey, that's where I want to stay. So I'm not going to do new ventures with bands. I'm just going to stick to my Led Zeppelin guns. And that's basically what he's done the rest of his life. And we want to know, folks, did we get something right? Did we get something wrong? Did we miss the point? Did we leave out your favorite part? Email and let us know. It's uglyamericanwerewolf@gmail.com. You'll notice the bands, the albums, the tours, the concerts, the books, the DVDs, the rock properties you want to hear us talk about here on the show. It is imperative that you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Yes, Apple and Spotify are the big ones, but anywhere you get your podcast is helpful to us. Just make sure you download them. We've had some people go and download our whole back catalog, which at this point is 300 shows, and we really appreciate that. But if you really want to help us out, please go give us a 5-star review. It just means the world to us. It helps us find more rock and rollers like you, and if you send it our way, we might just read it on an episode. Thanks as always to Pantheon Podcast for making us part of the family, and thanks to our sponsor, rarevinyl.com, where if you use the code UGLY, you can save 10% off one entire order. That's it for this week. We've got a great first concert memories interview coming up that I know you guys are want to hear, so you're not going to want to miss that. And we return to our hard rock and metal roots in the month of February. So for those of you who saw us go in the prog direction and maybe take on some experimental albums that weren't huge hits, thanks for bearing with us. You will be rewarded in February. So until next time, to all you rockers all around the world, be cool and keep doing what you do to keep rock alive.